Hi, I'm attorney Steve Reilly, and today we're going to talk about whether or not it's better to have your closing happen at the end of the month. All right, so there's ups and downs of having your closing at the end of the month, and here's what they are. Well, basically, it's caused by something called interest in advance. It's something that you're going to owe to the bank on the day of closing. Well, what that means is this: is interest is considered paid by a bank in arrears, or in other words, backwards. So if you have a loan and you make a payment on January 1st, you're actually paying for December's interest. So when we close, the bank is going to want to make sure that they get the interest paid for every single day that they have loaned you their money. So for example, if you have a closing on the 1st of January, your first payment is not going to be usually your first payment's not going to be due until March 1st. So when you make your March payment, you've actually paid the interest for the month of February. But at the closing, the bank's going to say, well, what about the interest for us giving you that money, and you've now had to use that money throughout the entire month of January? So what they will do is they will calculate a daily rate, and then on your closing paperwork, they would say, at the time of the closing, you owe us from January 1st to January 31st. So you have to come up with all that money for 1 month of interest, which is approximately the amount of one payment, because all of your interest is front-loaded in a loan. So that would have to take place at the time of the closing. So what that means is on January 1st, you need more money. You have to come up with more money in order to close that transaction. The good news is your first payment won't be due until March 1st. If you close that loan on January 31st, then you'd only have to pay 1 day interest in advance on January 31st for the use of the money on the 31st. And then you would have to simply have interest paid when you make your payment on March 1st. It counts for February, and therefore there's no interest in advance due at the time of the closing. So you have to come up with less money on January 31st. However, your first payment is going to be due about 30 days later, or in the January situation, 28 days later because of February. So your first payment's going to be due March 1st. So naturally, though, you probably got a 15-day grace period, as I see in almost every closing that I do. The banks or lenders give you a 15-day grace period before a penalty is charged. However, it still means that the money is paid a lot sooner. So, do you save any money by doing that? Having a closing at the end of the month? No, because it all washes out in the end, in the life of the loan, but you won't have to come up with as much on the day of the closing. And we all know that sometimes you have to have other expenses that you're coming up with right after the closing for furniture and things that you didn't realize about the house that you might have to buy to move into the house. So sometimes people say, gee, I want to wait that month so I get my next couple of paychecks, and then I can actually start to make the payments on the loan then, even though they come up sooner, but they're going to be less on the day of the closing. So in other words, it's all up to you. It's all up to the banks mostly these days as to when that closing is exactly going to take place. But that's the reason why people talk about, well, I want my closing to happen at the end of the month versus having it at some other time during the month. I hope this video is informative to you. And if you did like it, if you can please give me a little thumbs up on the bottom here. And if you want to hear more of these types of more of these types of videos, then you can actually subscribe, pressing the subscribe button, so then it would go out to other people as well who might be interested in the material that I'm talking about. Well, thank you for watching, and good luck with your real estate transactions.